Hello and what is up YouTube? My name is G3Iron and welcome to today's discussion where we are asking the question, when was your best league start and what made it the best? That's our discussion question. You can drop us a comment down below to let us know what your best league start story was and what made it the best. For those of you who are new to the channel, you can like, subscribe, and ding the bell to be notified about future discussions just like this one. And above my slightly balding forehead, there should be some timestamps placed for your convenience that you can jump around to if you'd like to review different discussion points as we talk about them today. So Gubbs had one of the most lucky league starts that I have ever heard of. He says, I started in Legion and I pulled a Headhunter from the Wretched card set after farming Tower for less than 3 hours. That is basically the GG like league start. I think the only way that you could say you would have a better league start than that would be to say like a Mirror of Calandra dropped for you early on. And I think actually early on, you might actually argue that the Headhunter is better value early on in a league as you are playing through a character and you can form and shape your character differently. Whereas with the Mirror, you're probably not going to use the Mirror until later on in a league, as there are different Mirror tier items that are actually crafted and worth spending a Mirror on. And so I think that's pretty much about the best league start that you can get. Tindakappa says, my second league. I still knew nothing about the game. I actually thought the stats on weapons also applied to spells. Started with Lightning Trap, equipped the weapons with the best stats I got. So basically no spell damage. I had a suboptimal 4-link and I absolutely destroyed the campaign and didn't even notice I was probably missing half of the DPS that I should have been dealing. That is an exceptional story because so often in Path of Exile, there's so many different mechanics that are blending together that you don't even realize are blending together, or you're missing out on so many mechanics that you don't even realize what could be blending together. So this is a wonderful story that even if you have no idea of what you are doing in Path of Exile, a great league start is not limited or reserved to players who have thousands of hours and tons of different, forum posts and Wikipedia entries, memorized in the back of their head. The game is heavily catered towards players who are willing to spend time inside the game and outside of the game researching and theory crafting, but that doesn't mean that a good league start or even your best league start is limited to you if you're a veteran or it's capped by some amount of hours limits. It could be very early on in your POE career that you're actually just messing around and you blow through stuff because you're having a great time learning the game. Sam says, so far Delirium was my best league start. I went with an Arc Miner and I made it into red maps before my video game ADD took me away. It was probably for the best as my wrist was very unhappy. Yeah, here's a warning for any of you who are going to be using miners as your league starters. You may love the results of your ability to push content. However, your wrist may hate you. So just be aware of that. If you've never played a miner before, don't come back and say, oh, Iron, you never mentioned anything about how miners suck to play. Like, they can. For some players, they really can. For other players, it doesn't matter and it's totally fine and it doesn't have any kind of physical drawbacks to it. But for other players, it's really going to mess with your wrists. Sam continues, it was my best start only because it was the first time I understood the build and how to scale the damage properly. Previous attempts became too frustrating as I only killed the first map boss by burying it in my corpses. I'm looking forward to Harvest SSF. The way trade is implemented irritates me so much I ended up not trading anyway. The garden crafting makes me think I'll have options to upgrade whenever I get a little stuck. The worst league was easily Betrayal. I hadn't been playing long and my build was terrible. So intervention and I'm dead. I think I made it to Act 6 and it was on a beach somewhere. Sam, you and I actually had a similar story, at least when it comes to Betrayal. I got to maps with Betrayal, but I got to maps on Betrayal like on day 3. There was a whole bunch of stuff with my family going on, so I wasn't able to just have like really long-term play sessions as we were starting out with Betrayal. And I also started off trying to use the Impale mechanic, which Impale is God tier at the moment, but it was trash tier when it first was released. It came out with only a couple of skills that were supporting using Impale, and I made all kinds of mistakes with it. It was so tough to stack just physical damage onto stuff. Anyway, Betrayal, I'm right there with you. It was easily my worst league start. And I'm glad to hear that Delirium was your best. And just like what we said earlier, how a good league start isn't gated. In other words, you don't have to have a certain number of hours in order to have a good league start. It definitely helps when you understand your build. Whether or not you've got 1,000 hours in Path of Exile, 10,000 hours in Path of Exile, or this is your first league in Path of Exile. It does not matter. Your level of knowledge about your build is what's most important for you to be able to adjust and play accordingly with the hand that you are dealt by RNG over opening weekend as you league start. Mrs. Toot says 3.10. I started with Exploding SRS and it was the easiest league starter I ever did. Plus the gear was extremely cheap to buy because SRS, LOL. One of the things that's great about league starters, and I constantly feel like every single league I have to remind people of this, a league starter is cheap precisely because you're only grabbing stuff that you're finding along the way, or if you're playing in a trade league, maybe you've got access to a few chaos that have dropped for you here or there. League starters are good precisely because of how bare bones they can be to get to a stage where they can repeatedly farm specific content in order to grow your crafting supply or grow your trading supply in order to push your build further. Now, this is a general truism that doesn't hold true across the board for every single league, but in general, this is one of the reasons why you'll see me oftentimes recommending spell-based league starters, because oftentimes spell damage based league starters that are scaling up most of their damage primarily through spell levels is very, very cheap. You simply play the game, you kill monsters, you get experience on your gems, and your gems level up. You don't just have to be leveling up that one DPS gem either. You can be leveling up in your offhand other copies of your same DPS or whatever DPS gem you eventually want to swap to. So that way when they all hit level 20, you can vol them, or in an ideal world, what you do is you GCP them into the recipe, and then you would level them back up to level 20, and then you can vol them. This means if you're SSF, you've got a lot of different chances of hitting a level 21 gem. If you're in Trade League, you've got a lot of different options. If you do hit a level 21 gem, you can either keep it for yourself or sell it. Or you can simply sell the gems as they are, and other players might be interested because they're build swapping over to your build throughout the course of the league start. You've got lots and lots of options as you play with a spell-based build. Now, again, that's a generalization. Attack builds are strong, and I may league start with an attack build here in Harvest. Who knows? But attack builds in general are more tied to their gear, specifically to their weapons. And so that's why oftentimes you will see me leaning a bit more towards the side of spellcasters early on in a league, and SRS is a great example of this, that it is a spell that will scale with its levels, and it's also a minion-based gem, which means there's a ton of different minion nodes on the tree and a ton of different ways that you can build SRS in order to make it effective. Noah says, this upcoming Harvest League will be my first league start. Never have done it before, and I joined the game on May 17th. I suppose I won't get a better league start than Delirium. Fortunate enough to have friends who gave me about 10 Exalted worth of gear. Looking forward to Harvest League to learn and properly league start. Noah, welcome to Path of Exile, and of course, welcome right here to the G3 community. So here's the good news. The good news is you got to play a little bit around in the game, and so you know at least an approximation of what some things are valuable. You know that 10x is seemingly a lot. You also know that 10x isn't something that you should be expecting to accrue over the first couple of days of a league. Now, there's a debate inside the Path of Exile community in between getting new players started and how to go about that. Some players argue that it's a good thing to give your friend some extra currency and some extra gear because you want them to enjoy the game, and so you want them to have a strong boost to their character and to their start, so that way they can feel a bit of that power fantasy of the game. They're not too challenged too early. Another approach takes the opposite mindset. It says, look, we want you to experience how difficult this game is, and the difficulty of this game is going to be the thing that's appealing to you. Regardless of whichever side of that debate you fall on, which Noah, obviously you and your friends fell on the, hey, give me some gear side of that debate. But regardless, if you guys are watching this and you fall on either side of that, that's totally fine. I just want to remind everybody, a league start is a fresh opportunity for us to play a video game and have fun. So as you're learning and getting ready for Harvest League, and as you're getting set for your league starters, let's have fun doing that. Let's have fun as Harvest League releases, and then let's have fun during Harvest League. Like, let's have fun playing some video games regardless of whichever way it is that we choose to approach the game. Let's enjoy our time inside this game where we actually have time to play. Like, we live in a world right now where we could all use a deep breath and to take a break, right? That's what Path of Exile does for many of us, and so let's enjoy it for what it is. James says his best league start was in Metamorph, and his story goes like this. He dropped 2 Cospri's Malices on day 1. That's right, not 1, but 2 of some of the best weapons, the best uniques that you could have for a COC build. He said, selling them easily funded my character through red maps, smooth sailing all the way. It will never happen again. Now, James, I got 2 things to say for you, man. On the first hand, yeah, that was a really, really lucky league start, and it probably won't happen again. But on the other hand, imagine if you get even luckier and a mirror drops for you. You decided to sell your 2 Cosbries very, very early in the league. What will you do if a mirror drops for you? Just think about it. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Just think about it. Be ready. Be ready. Chris says, my best league start was this league 3.10 Delirium. I built a zombie mancer and started right on blight maps day 2 of the league. Sold oils for huge profit margins and found a lucky 6-link staff with tier 1 minion damage plus deals double damage on my 3rd tier 3 blight. I was doing tier 16s within 48 hours of that drop and selling gold oils for 1.5x. Made 60x in the first week of the league. One of the things that I love so much about Chris's story is that he combines his RNG with solid in-game strategies for building up a currency pool that will last him throughout the duration of a league. Chris's strategy was to have a particular build. He went with the zombie mancer in this particular case. He knew the specific content that he could farm that would be easily repeatable and easily farmable for his build, which was going to be blight maps. And he knew that those blight maps were going to be relatively cheap to acquire, and they had the potential to have very, very high profits by turning out gold oils. This is an exceptional example done by Chris of having a league starter picked with content picked with a particular market picked in order to fund the rest of your league. So in case any of you missed that, make sure that you pick a league starter so that way when you actually click create character, you know what it is that you're doing. Don't worry, we've got league starters that are going to be coming out over the course of the next week or so. And as we get patch notes, we'll of course do our big summary, multiple different league starters that we'll recommend. In addition to picking out your league starter, you also want to know what content you're aiming to farm. Are you going to target farm harvest and spend a lot of time trying to figure out your garden? Is there a previous league mechanic like delve where you're going to go deep into in order to get fossils? Are you going to constantly set up a solid betrayal board and therefore you're going to be farming Jund missions as much as possible? Are you going to be a lab carry or a boss killing service that you're going to provide? Are you going to focus on trading and flipping, and so progression for your first character really doesn't matter that much? Having a solid strategy of what content you're aiming to tackle helps you as you think about your league starter and then as you think about the content that you want to tackle to make profits for you moving on throughout the rest of the league. So have a league starter, know what content you want to hit, and then know what markets you want to be active in. For Chris, this means that he was probably active, and Chris, feel free to point out if I'm wrong down below in the comments, but this meant that he was probably active in collecting blight maps, whether that's buying them off of the market or just saving them if they dropped for him, and then selling the proceeds of those blight maps, ideally gold oils at that rate of 1.5x. So you know exactly what it is you need to be buying, and you know exactly what it is that you need to be selling in order to make great profits off of your character. Know your league starter, know your content, know your market. Well, thanks so much to everybody for participating in today's discussion. I look forward to reading all of your various stories down below. What was your best league start and what made it the best? For me, my best league start was probably in Synthesis League, I think. I was playing hardcore that league, and I think that was probably my best league just because me and a couple of other buddies got enough currency that we were able to craft whatever it was that we wanted to hit, and we got in very, very early into some big markets in Synthesis in the hardcore trade league scene, and that was just a fantastic league across the board. Other than that, I would say that my worst league was definitely Betrayal, but we've already talked enough about what my worst league was. Drop us a comment down below about what league was your best league start and what exactly made it the best. Thanks so much for participating today, and I hope 3.11 Harvest League is the league a Mirror of Calandra drops for you.
Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.